I've been in this game now for at least 22 years. I've come to realize it's not money, it's the number of people that you're able to serve. If you're a number of people that you add value to, a number of people that are inspired by your journey, by your success, and also by when you're low. 2015, I lose everything completely. When I lost over 150,000 pounds, I quit entrepreneurship. What that made me feel was like I've just been chasing through school, being an entrepreneur, chasing through my entire life. Nothing is working. I saw myself as a failure. I've been through so much pains and ups and downs that people who are of my generation will absolutely just quit and just stick to the odd jobs and all these different things. If you go through your pain and you're tested, that's okay. But don't let that be the reason why you quit. Let that be the reason why you even want to be successful. And that's when I actually decided to.
Welcome to another episode of the Diaries of Success. I'm your host, Hajar Beyaz, and today I have an amazing guest with me. I just want to jump straight into the topic. This guy has gone from being an Uber driver to running a seven figures property business. I am privileged to be having with me Dr. Daniel Moses.
Great to be on the Diary of Success podcast.
Thank you.
It's a long time coming. We're here now.
Exactly. Finally, right? Been chasing him for God knows how many months.
A couple of weeks.
Well, Daniel, who is Dr. Daniel Moses?
So I like to want to introduce myself as a man with many hats, a man who has been through the bottom, beaten and back to the top, beaten again down, back to the top. And again, that's one thing about success, right? Success is not just about when you're winning, it's also when you're failing. What did you learn when you're winning? What did you learn when you're failing? So in simplicity, the easiest way to kind of, describe myself, I'm just a man that is driven by passion, whose desire cannot be compromised. That's the easiest way to kind of just describe myself.
Wow, that's, you just literally replied to one of the questions I was going to ask you later on. But still, let me just ask you that later when the time comes. So you just said passion.
Yes.
There. You just said failure.
Yeah.
You just said so many things. What does failure mean to you?
So for me, I think failure is good to have, because if you don't fail, you don't win. If you never know what it is to fail, when you win, you're going to take it for granted. So at every given point in life, for me, failure means another lesson learned. Failure means another opportunity to get creative. Failure means another opportunity to just think 2 steps ahead. So for me, failure is something that is great as long as you understand how to bounce back. Over the last 22 years of my life, I've been beaten to so many times.
Hold on. 22 years of your life.
Yep.
You look 25, so explain that to me, like.
So for me, yes. I mean, I turned 43. I turned 43 years old. March, the 3rd of March, 2023. So I turned 43 years old, and yeah, a lot of people think I'm quite young, but I've got a 15-year-old son, been married for 17 years. So that kind of show you that,
To be honest, you share your skincare routine with me later on.
It's cocoa butter. Cocoa butter.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, look, the passion that you have really portrays in everything you do.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And the failure, a lot of people are afraid of failure just because it looks really bad. It's comfort. There is a comfort zone. And outside of that, there is the zone of failure. But you were bouncing back and forth from failure to success to being comfortable, then failing, and then trying something else. And then tell me a little bit about that and how it started.
Very interesting question, by the way. It all started back, like I said, 22 years now. At some point in my life, I actually thought that, maybe it was just all odds against me. It was just that maybe I would never make it. It was just that the fact that, maybe I would never achieve or amount to anything at some point in my life. But looking back 22 years I've been on this journey, I went back in writing and talking about it in my new book, which is called The Test. And the reason why I wrote The Test was to kind of share to people, especially those who are at the starting phase of their entrepreneurship journey and those who are in the growth stage of their journey, to making them understand that you are going to be tested. in order before you become successful. So for me, starting this journey for me, I went back to talking about right from when I was in the university. When I was in university, I sold anything sellable. I was the guy who sold anything. And that put me in risk. From the risk that put me into, it kind of, created an opportunity that allowed me to escape from Nigeria. And I talk about that. Got into United Kingdom, no brother, no sister, no auntie, nobody. I only knew 3 people. Okay? Falling backward, falling forward, not having anything at all to look to my left, to look to my right on, but I kept breathing. And as an entrepreneur, that can only come by passion. And that can only come by desire. Now, if you read a book called The Think and Grow Rich, if Mr. C. Bonds, and the only thing that made him to continue to be successful and allowed him to become a very successful entrepreneur was his desire. And if you look back, every single entrepreneurs who are out there who eventually became something great in life, it is 2 things, desire and passion. Don't become an entrepreneur or property investor if you don't have the desire and if you don't have the passion. So over the years, looking back from the university days of Mr. or Dr. Daniel Moses now, today, one thing has allowed me to become the person I am now, which is being able to desire where I wanted to be and having enough passion to allow me navigate those anxieties, those depression. Everybody talk about the good side of business, but the fact is that there are days in those months, in those years, that I feel like even, should I end it? Is it worth it? Or should I just quit completely? And at some point in my life, yes, I did took that turn where I actually quitted this desire of mine and the passion.
Yeah.
But again, when it's bathed inside of you, when it's inside of you, it cannot die. And so that's what allowed me to be the person that I am. And it's just only the beginning. A lot of people fail to go through that. A lot of people don't want to go through failures, especially in England.
Yeah.
Where people think failure is something very scary, but failure is part of the journey. Losing money is part of the journey. Going out to look for money is part of the process. Look at Elon Musk. 4 times he shot the rockets into the sky. But today, look at what he's achieved. So depending on where you want to look at it from, but for me, I think failure is part of the process.
Why are people scared to start? There's a lot of potential out there. There's a lot of people who really have great potential.
Yeah.
A lot of people who know more than the people who are successful right now.
Yes.
So many people, but then they're just afraid to take that step. Is it because fear of the unknown, or is it because they can't be bothered?
I think for me, sometimes it's environment. If you're in an environment where people are not ambitious enough, all right, that can hold you back. In this journey of mine, I've shared it in different conversations. I love my mother so much. She's 87 years old. I love her so much. But I would never take advice from my mother about money, about wealth, about loan, about leveraging, raising finance. But that's the biggest thing. So that's your first environment. Your first environment starts from the people that are so close to you.
Yeah.
So normally it will be your mother, your father,
Yeah.
your aunties, your uncles, the friends, work colleagues. So if you are about to do a transaction, you're about to buy the next property, and you're telling someone you want to get an investor who's going to bring £100,000 to someone who's never borrowed £1,000 before.
Yeah.
Just imagine it for 1 minute. For those of you watching, just imagine it. Someone who's never borrowed £1,000, you're telling them you're going to go and raise £100,000.
Yeah.
The first thing they're going to say to you, do not do it. In fact, here is this case study, here is this case study, here is this case of those who did it.
Negative.
And then they fucked up, right? And that's the thing. A lot of people will never start. It's not because of just the fear of failure. It's just because of the environment. The environment sometimes doesn't just help you as an individual, all right, to just kind of dig in deeper to become the greatest version of yourself. And that's why a lot of people never start, because a lot of people are going to the wrong people for the right advice.
It sometimes comes from a place of love, isn't it?
Well, most people that are trying to protect you not to win, it's not because they hate you. Yeah, you're right. It's from the place of protecting you, and place of, because they love you, they care about you. Over the last 3 years of my property investment journey, I've raised about 1.5 million. And I remember the first day my wife, we had a sit down, and I saw at that time, I said, oh, we've raised over 1.5 million the last couple of days and that.
Yeah.
And I hadn't paid it down at that time. And my wife looked at me and she's anxious and looking at me because she's never ever seen someone that she knows did that. And knowing that she's my wife. But when we paid down and paid down and paid down, I said, oh yeah, we've paid that down now. We only have 2-3 more £100,000 to pay, and she's more relaxed.
Yeah.
But the truth is that if you really look at it, if I did not, for example, go out there to raising money from private investors, I would never be able to own multiple properties that I own today.
True.
So it takes you the ability to sometimes even hurt the ones that you love to give them the life they truly deserve. All right? Because if you're willing to listen to those that loves you because of their actually transferring the fear they have about you from the point of love or from the angle of love, and that's where we all end up being in a place of comfort, which England promotes a lot, especially to people of, ethnic minorities. Because the moment you have the flat, you have one nice car to drive, and people just quit and not maximizing the greatest opportunities that is out there for them to grow.
You mentioned something. You said the desire of being better and better every time.
Yes.
Does that stop you from being content where you are right now?
It does. Sometimes the desire is so big that, a lot of people who especially drove Uber for over 18 hours a day got to the level of where I own few properties now, generating the kind of income that I have, probably would not have a personal assistant, probably would not have a marketing director, operations director, and having over 8 virtual assistants working, for them. They would basically not need a lot of, they probably wouldn't even need to build a brand. So desire comes in, and all of a sudden, I need a PA. Desire comes in, oh, I need a video editor. Desire comes in, oh, I need somebody to come in to be marketing director.
Yeah.
So those are all desires. A lot of people will build to where I am now and and that's it, and there's nothing wrong in that at all.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong in that. But yeah, desires sometimes do make you not content. Ted, it does do that. But then again, if they say if the vision is not big enough, don't dare, right? So yeah,
True.
the visions have to be big.
But are you happy?
I am very, 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 very happy.
Great.
But the truth is, the ambition sometimes it does ache.
When does it stop?
Quite a big question. It's a big question. It's a big question I don't even have an answer to.
Maybe it will never stop, isn't it?
Because recently I was having a very interesting conversation with my business partner, Kevin. I get so many productive thoughts every single day, every single second, every single minute. And when we sit down, the other day he said, Dan, you're crazy. You come with this idea, you come with this idea, you come with this idea. And every time we put them to use, we always get results.
Great.
And he said, you're not normal. You're not normal. I said, I don't know if I'm not normal, but I just think it's a gift. So as far as God is giving me that gift, I do think I need to utilize that gift that God is giving to me. And until the point where those gift doesn't work anymore, then I'll probably say, and probably that will lead me to contentment. But I'm still very young. I can put these thoughts to books. I can put these thoughts to podcasts like this. I can put these talks to being able to lift other people up to be the greatest version of themselves. So until maybe that doesn't happen anymore, then maybe I can probably think of being contented and then think about stopping. But as long as I have, bread, I can breathe, I have life, maybe, I don't know. It's quite a very interesting question. It is very deep.
We can have a think about it properly, and then in season 2 I'll bring you back.
Probably, yes. 100%.
Yeah. Take me back to when you were an Uber driver.
Wow.
Or do you know what? Let's start before that. Let's start from when you were in Nigeria, before you came to the UK. how was the shift from being a Nigerian man in Nigeria to coming here to the UK and having a very successful life? Because not a lot of people succeed and not a lot of people make it.
100%.
And if I remember correctly, you were at some point with no documents, found yourself a little bit lost. So let's start from when the moment you actually decided to change your life.
First of all, as I mentioned earlier, all the way from Nigeria, I used to sell anything apart from drugs. I became quite known in campus for
Yeah.
selling,
Mm.
and I will sell anything sellable. The guys likes me, the girls loves me, especially the girls really do love me.
No
And
doubt.
and you know, I started finding myself in a situation whereby I would sell things to people,
Mm.
and from selling things to those people, they pay me some of the money. Sometimes they don't pay me the rest of them. And this was quite challenging. And in
Mm.
Nigeria, there is still very jungle justice is still very high. Jungle justice is when you almost take the law into your own hands. And I think jungle justice still exists in the whole of Africa. And jungle justice just means you just take the law into your own hands. You demand for someone that owes you money. Even the Bible says eye for an eye, for example. So it means that if the person don't pay you, you know, you can fight them or they can fight you, whatever that
Mm.
looks like. So for me, I will sell things to people and people would not, they wouldn't pay me. I'll be oppressed. You know, at some point as well, being at university, I was, you know, I'll probably go out with my girlfriend and I'll be oppressed. You know, at some point, I was slapped in my face heavily, you know, and my car keys was collected, you know, and I had to go and give something, you know, part of what I sell to get my car back. And that really started to really, you know, was painful.
Mm.
And because these were rivalry groups in campus. So at some point I made that decision and said, you know what, this can't keep happening. How do I, you know, and the people who was oppressing me said you have to become a member of that particular group. So I actually, you know, talked a little bit about this in, you know, in my new book, The Test. So I bowed to that pressure and I became a member of a gang, a particular gang in campus. And that enabled me to overcome the fact that nobody could just come up to me and slap me and take my car keys or, you know, or try to oppress me. At some point, it was good because I felt okay, I was untouchable. But then once you're in now,
Mm. You can't go out.
you can't go out in that way. Not just you can't go out in that way as well. It became a bit more violent. The year I actually became a member of this particular groups. At the end, a lot of people died that year in campus. So I had no choice than to say, no, I'm
Mm.
a sales guy. I love good life. And that's exactly what prompted me to looking for visa, regardless of however it took, to
Yeah.
find myself in the UK. No brother, no sister, no auntie, no uncle. I knew three people, one in Leeds, one in Luton, and one in London. And got myself a visa, came to the London, got here however I did, got here, slept on the floor, you know, did a lot of different types of odd jobs. But within a year to 2 years from the odd jobs, I saved a lot of money and started shipping things back to Nigeria. All right. It was hard. All right. It was hard. If I was to go deep into the story, we'll be here for the next, who knows? And it was really hard, very hard. And being in here, not able to legitimately work because if you're on a visa, you can't work.
Mm.
You know, no recourse to public funds.
Yes.
If you're on a visa, you can't do so many things. All right. You can't do business. You can't do any of these things.
Yeah.
So, however, met a few people here and there, and I would get odd jobs to be here. I would get odd jobs like cleaning toilets, spraying perfumes in the toilets, you know, loading cars, people's vans in the car in the streets of Peckham, and that was my life. It was tough. The cold weather wasn't even friendly, you know, enough. It was terrible. Like literally, you're talking to someone who came all the way from Nigeria, and there's consistent heat, 34, 40 degrees to -1, you know, temperature. You know,
True.
it was really really hard. That was tough, and that led me to loneliness. And I became lonely. You know, I wasn't sure. Maybe just go back to Nigeria. You know, and I went through all this different massive roller coaster. cut long story short, within 2 years of going through that, I met my girlfriend, who's now my wife, 17 years later. Meeting my wife gave me the reason why I should stay in this country, because I was already in the mindset of my entrepreneurship life is going to be killed by this. Obviously, the government in Nigeria as well, there's no guarantee when you graduate from school if you're going to get a job and stuff like that. In fact, you can read medicine and you can end up working in bank. You can read banking and end up working as a builder. That's how much 20 years ago looked like in Nigeria. And I'm not from the upper class at all. Neither was I from the middle class of Nigeria. So I'm from the lower class Nigerian, or low to mid, probably low to mid. Yeah, my brothers, my family members, they had money, but it's not like we were super wealthy.
Right.
So we were just okay. My brother owns hotels, petrol station and all of this. And so we were okay. So that's just what, growing up looked like. And then coming into this country and doing all these different businesses. And at some point in my life, I just knew I was always an entrepreneur. I love selling things. I love giving services. I love giving value. I kind of understood it, but I didn't totally understand as at then that I was an entrepreneur. Maybe you might want to say a hustler, because I hustled to sell anything. I hustled to just make a living. And it was a choice that I made at the very young age of my life. Cut long story short, as of 2006, when I met my wife, got married. Again, that came with its own challenges, because a lot of people felt like, oh, maybe I was getting married to my wife because I had an agenda. Maybe that's how I needed to stay in this country. So both my family, her family, friends, everybody talking. But anyway, cut long story short, that allowed me to stay in the country. My first child came, Abraham. He's 15 years old now. Then a couple of years later, my daughter came, Angel. And that's just exactly how my life looked like. 2012, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to do different types of businesses, but it doesn't look like I have a business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Relocated back to Nigeria, started oil and gas. I started doing logistics, so which means I would move petroleum products from one depot to the other. And eventually that went well. That was the very first time I started to really have the fulfillment of, okay, wow, it's been 5, 6, 7, 8 years of grind. No, actually, not 5, 7 years. Up to 2012, that'll probably be around about 8, 10 years. And life is getting settled. I'm going back to Nigeria, back and forth. And all of a sudden, my business is all right. 2015, I lose everything completely.
Why?
I lost over 150,000 pounds in a truck fire blaze. So 2 of my trucks moving petroleum products from the northern part of Nigeria to from the western part of Nigeria to the northern part of Nigeria, 65,000 liters of petroleum products. They ran into each other, fell into the valley, burst into flames. Trucks completely burnt to ashes. The luck had nobody died, because if someone died, that would have been something else. I'll still be feeding and looking after the children of those drivers, but nobody died. And that was very challenging moment. And that's when I actually decided to quit entrepreneurship.
How did that make you feel?
I actually quit. When that happened to me, when I lost over 150,000 pounds, I quit entrepreneurship. And I became what that made me feel was like, it's like I've just been chasing since 2000 and, I've just been chasing through school, being an entrepreneur, chasing through my entire life. Nothing is working. I saw myself as a failure. I saw myself as a disappointment. I saw myself, maybe there was something beyond me that was working against me. That's just what I saw.
Did you enjoy doing that?
When I was an Uber driver?
No, in petrol.
I loved it. Like I said, that was the first time I felt fulfillment. That was the first time I felt successful. But losing all of that, I became depressed. I went through a major depression. Whilst I was going through that depression, going through a panic attacks, you name it, my life was just, it almost ruined my marriage. You know, between that period, I try to get it all together. You know, my wife is even looking at me like, when is all these battles going to end? I've got 2 young kids I need to look after. My father, I didn't have the opportunity to have been looked after by my father. So my responsibility to my children is whatever I did not get from my father, I need to get it. I need to make sure I'm that person in the life of my children. You know, so I felt completely disappointed. I felt lost. I felt like I'm chasing shadows. I just felt like, to be honest, I think I was quite fortunate not to be suicidal. But because that's the only thing I've never, in my entire, every single challenge I've ever felt in my life, I think the only thing that God has always, done for me is never to have thought, okay, let me take my own life. But the kind of pains and trials and tribulations I've been through in my entire life, I think financially, emotionally, physically, and mentally, a lot of people probably would have lost it mentally.
I'm just looking at, as an outsider, I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, oh my God, this man has survived quite a lot. Also, having a family that's relying on you. I mean, I personally wouldn't know what I would have done.
I share something in my book, and I think I'm not going to give it away. Top point in my life, I had legal battles that I couldn't even come back. I went out of this country and I couldn't come back for a year. And I share that in my book. I'm not going to give that away. But those who want to know about the story, and this is why I wrote the test, because not everybody's gonna pass through a test. But to some of us, majority of us, we pass through a test, and some of us end it and say, no, this is too much.
Yeah, I've seen so many people do that, I mean, look, even us, we're sometimes, I would say, guilty of it. Guilty because our reason why is not strong enough to continue. Listen, I've had situations I'm like, you know what, fuck that. It's too much for me. I'm a female. Why don't I just get a man who's stable, look after me,
Yep.
And I don't want the hustle and I don't want to deal with it all. But I'm like, am I worth this? No, I'm just way better than just rely on someone else. What was the reason for you at that time to actually bounce back and come back even stronger?
I think one of my biggest reasons why to always bounce back, I started family at a very young age. I got married at the age of 26. Got married at the age of 26. By 28, I had my first child, Abraham. So got married. My first son was given birth to in 2008. My son, my children are my biggest reason why I can't fail. They're my strength. Like they are my strength. My son, my daughter, I look at them, and even when the whole world is crashing on me sometimes, when I look at them, I have this renewed strength, renewed hope. And that goes back to tying it back to how my bed looked like. My father married, 7 wives. I'm the 26th born of my late father.
So you have 26 brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Amazing.
My father married 7 wives. And 26th born of my late father. I don't know some of my step brothers. I don't know them. I grew up in a very interesting African home. And I've always promised myself not to be that version of my dad. My son, right now, he's 15. We relate a lot. Yeah, it's, kids, they can be a bit annoying sometimes, oh, and I was like, Abraham, don't do that. Again, raising kids in this country is not easy on his own. So my biggest reason why is, without word of a doubt, is my children. And then my biggest reason why is my wife. I came to a country where nobody knew me. I came to a country where their process, their procedures, their system, there's institution. And you can't go around that institution. You have to have legal resident permits and all of that to survive this country. So when I came here, I couldn't do a lot of things that normal people would do because you don't have papers. And my wife has stood by me fighting all those different battles.
Wow.
For those who are British nationals would not understand what it is to have citizenship. The red book you hold in front of you, you don't know what it is.
I can relate to you.
And for me, not having that, like my son will never understand what it means to apply for to apply for a visa.
And wait,
and just
whether
pay,
to be rejected.
to the USA.
Wow.
You know, oh, I'm going to Canada tomorrow.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
understand all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost like when you've come from a lot of hassle, a lot of bitterness, a lot of fight, a lot of different situation to be where I am today, sometimes I just like, God, thank you.
Well, look, I've met both of your kids. I met your lovely wife, and you have a beautiful family.
Thank you.
And I can only say that they are very privileged to be having a dad like you, a husband who is supportive, who's also caring about them. Because someone else would just be like, you know what? I'll just get a job and they will live off whatever there is right on the table. But they're also involved in your business. They're also very entrepreneurial. So I can see what you're doing, you and your missus, is just beautiful. So congratulations and well done
Appreciate
for
it.
raising amazing and beautiful daughter and son.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, you know what? Let's lift the bar a little bit off, and let's change the atmosphere a little bit. We'll come back to this just in a minute. We have a game that we play with our guests. We like to know, to talk to their subconscious. Okay, so we like to play a game, and it's time for Would You Rather. But before we do that, I would like to ask you to click that subscribe button, to ask us all your questions. Let us know who you want to see in this studio. If you have questions for Daniel, what are your questions? You know, he's very inspirational. Just reach out. You know, have the buttons down below. Click subscribe. Follow us on all our social media as well, because we make sure we bring you the best of the guests. Without any further ado, let's get in the game. And that's the Would You Rather. Daniel, I'm going to ask you a few questions. And I want you to answer me in a split of a second.
Okay.
Feel free. If you don't want to respond, it's okay. But you would have to sing instead.
Okay. Oh, that's a hot seat now. You put me in a hot seat.
I did. So we'll come back in later on. You just give me an answer without giving me a reason why. I'll come back to some of the answers later on, okay?
All right.
So, Nigeria or the UK?
UK.
Property or mentoring?
Property.
Singing or dancing?
Dancing.
£1 million or 1 million followers?
1 million followers.
YouTube or writing books?
Writing books.
Money or love?
Money.
Money or family?
Family.
Rob Moore or Samuel Leeds?
Woo!
Quick.
Rob Moore.
Okay. £10 million or going back to being a 6-year-old knowing everything you know right now?
Say that again.
£10 million or going back to when you were a 6-year-old knowing everything you know right now?
6-year-old.
DIY or DFY? So do it for you or do it yourself or done for you?
Done for you.
I think that's all, you know. You answered all your questions. I'm shocked. I'm shocked at some of the answers, actually. How'd you find that?
Amazing. I love it. You know, I love it. Yeah, I really do love it.
Well, you know what? Let's see our audience. Would you agree with Daniel? Give me what your answers are. I would love to know how. I'm going to put a poll as well and see what the audience, if they feel the same thing or if they agree with you. If they, we know there is a fight coming between Rob Moore and Samuel Leeds very, very soon. So why did you say Rob Moore?
Interestingly, the reason why I said Rob Moore, because I had the opportunity of meeting in person recently. I have met Samuel Leeds at the beginning of my property journey about 6 years ago. I went to one of his events way back. This is way, way long time. So I met him at the point where I was just on my journey myself. And I met Rob Moore, where I think by the grace of God, I have got a lot of fulfillment around me. So far, so good. So it's just based on longevity. So who I most met recently and who I met before. So I had the opportunity of having a great chat for just about a few minutes, and I got sold on him. So that's why I said Rob Moore.
Cool. You said UK over Nigeria.
Yes, I said UK over Nigeria because at the moment, I left Nigeria almost 20 years now. I've left Nigeria over 20 years now, or approximately 20 years now. Nigeria hasn't changed that much in terms of a conducive environment. So what's government? The government of a country produces the conducive environment for business to thrive.
Mm.
All right. And Nigeria has completely failed in producing that environment for businesses to really thrive. Over here in the UK, the government has produced the environment for businesses to thrive. The infrastructure is there, the platforms are there, the supports are there. But the Nigerian system is still based on who do you know, who do you know, who do you know, because it's all about it's Nigeria is when you talk about a nation that you can only prosper through who you know, that's Nigeria. So for me, I think in order for me to do what I'm doing now, I didn't need to know nobody. I didn't need to shoe shine. I didn't need to babysit anybody to do what I've done in 6 years, since 2016 till now. So I choose UK. And besides, I've been in England for just almost 20 years now. For the first 12 years of me being here, I went back and forth, went back and forth. And I've never had such a stability over the last 6 years. I've chosen not to travel. And I've had tremendous stability than I used to before. So yeah, I choose UK over that. Personal
Beautiful.
reasons.
Thank you. Thank you. You said 1 million followers.
Over £1 million.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Don't get it wrong or right. The truth is, I'd rather have 1 million followers
Mhm.
than to have £1 million. Because over time, that 1 million followers can make me 100 million. But over time, if I have 1 million, the 1 million can absolutely disappear.
Mm.
So one of the things I've learned as an entrepreneur, as you mentioned, I've been in this game now for at least 22 years. I've come to realize it's not money, it's the number of people that you're able to serve. If you're a number of people you add value to, is a number of people that are inspired by your journey, by your success, and also by when you're low.
Yeah.
So if I have 1 million people, the chances are I could become a billionaire by servicing 1 billion people. Let's do this very simple mathematics. You got a phone right there, right? Let's do a simple calculation.
Let's do a calculation.
If 1 million people pay me £100 a month, how much is that?
So you think 1 million, all of them would pay you £100 a month?
Let's just assume 100 people, sorry, 1 million people pay
Yeah.
me £100 a month.
So that they will, that will be 100, obviously 100 million. We don't need to do the
Exactly.
math. It's
So,
100
and that
million.
is that. So the truth is, you want to have 1 million people that knows you by your name, know who you are. I'll give an example. I don't even have I think I've currently got less than 100,000 followers, or approximately about 100,000 followers. Someone said to me, Daniel, I was going through depression and anxiety. And I listened to when you went deep and talked about when you went through your anxiety and your depression.
Yeah.
And just by listening to that alone, he said, I feel like I'm gradually coming out of depression
Mhm.
and coming out of, those dark moments.
Yeah.
Someone also said to me the other day, I'm inspired by how you carry your wife. And I'm just inspired by what I see, how you carry your wife on media. And I've gone home and that's made me a better person, a better man. Because a lot of marriages don't even last a year or 2 or 3 or 4. And you've been there at that time, I met this individual. I think I was probably married for about 16 years. And I said, yeah, but that came from 3 times divorce attempts. Once upon a time, myself and my wife, we almost said, let's end it. But again, these things that we're saying out of our subconscious mind, just sharing how we feel and how we manage ourselves sometimes, you never know who that's inspiring or who that's helping. So for me, I'd rather go and make an impact in 1 million people's life. Eventually, they want to buy my product. I just wrote a second book. 1 million people buy my book. A publisher is going to want to reach out to me to want me to become a published author next time. So it's all about who knows you as well, not just about the money, but get people to know you.
True. Even if 10% of that will buy your book for £10, that still will make you £1 million, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well, fair enough. Thank you. You said writing books over YouTube.
Yes.
Is that because you don't like making content, or?
Everyone can make a content. Not everyone can write a book. I have written my 2 books. I have personally written my 2 books. And in the nearest future, I will be obviously I'm expanding and I have an ambition to write more books. And God willing, one book is going to be coming out from me per year, and it's going to be talking about life
Nice.
because the devils I was seeing before I got to seven figures is not the same devil I'm going to see when I get into 8, 9 figures.
True.
So I
true.
want to share that with people.
In the test, because I read the introduction. So in the test, you said you are aiming for 9 figures in the next 10 years.
Yes.
How are you basing those figures for?
I'm basing the figures because this is not just what Dr. Danny Moses and my entire team and my business partners, Kevin, Millie, what we're building. It's not just a UK base. We're looking at we're aspiring to go global, and
Okay.
we're aspiring to go into 4 other countries. So that'll be 5 countries in total. I don't want to name this country yet. And God willing, we will succeed in 10 years. And when we succeed in 10 years, it's very easy to duplicate what we've successfully duplicated here in the UK into those countries. And that even probably might even supersede and lift up the bar.
Beautiful.
You know? Yeah. I mean, I've always had the ambition to build big, not build small.
Yeah.
So, and one of the reasons why I have an American mentor, you know, I love the way the American people do their things. They're very, they're very out there. They're buoyant. They're bullish. In the UK, we're taught to play very safe.
Why?
I don't know. You know, it's a different conversation for another day. If we go in there now, we're not going to come out.
Oh
in
yeah,
10,
we
20
were.
minutes.
We were.
And I can go deep into that. UK entrepreneurship is taught to be played safe because you don't want to fail.
Do you think it's because of the government? Because obviously, it's they have this idea in us that they always show us we have to go to uni, we have to succeed, have to get a good job, we have to work for the government, and they're making sure they're providing everything for you so that you can have that comfort that will suit them, so that you will never leave your comfort zone.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic because the 9 to 5 is security. You know, people love to be secure. Yeah, missing your direct debit, it's a big deal. You know, having to tell someone, sorry, I can't pay you today, let me pay you tomorrow is a big deal. It's your credibility. Oh, you're not a man of your word. But again, in entrepreneurship, those days will come. There are times where there are months I've seen, hundreds of £100,000 in my bank account. There are months where I had to rely on my direct debit, on my overdraft. There are times where, some bills have come through and I'm like, Kevin, what do we need to do to make sure we pay that bill? And we've got to go out there to get creative and pay that bill. And these are things that entrepreneurs do. But in entrepreneurship, people genuinely think you have to always have it all right and correct. It's absolutely bollocks. There is no such thing as smooth sailing. And because of that, nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to play safe. And then the government comes in, to like, what, the 9 to 5 job is great. Get a job. Everybody's, the government pushes you to get a job, and you get a job, and we're all happily ever after because we have that steady income that comes in at the end of the month. Security. But that security is not really security because people are leveraging debt in the wrong way. Because a lot of people have 40, 60, 70,000 pounds income, but they yet in their overdraft, and people are secured in that. But I'd rather be unsecure and then create a business, all right, regardless of how I've leveraged to create it, and maybe support the government and employ more people then, if that's the case. But again, entrepreneurship is played too safe in the UK.
Thank you. I agree with you. Totally agree with you. I hate working for someone else anyways. It's not like... I actually cringe when I remember how I used to make other people rich, and, because they're using my skills, using what I know, and I think I'm very good at what I do. And I'm someone who really likes to give 100%, whether it's for me or for someone else, regardless. Yeah. So I think when I look back and I see how much they were making from my back, it's just...
That's a very interesting conversation right there. If you probably say, yes, I'm bringing a lot of value to this organization, and they're making so much money, but how much am I getting? If you look at it from that perspective, well, I'll probably say if you become an entrepreneur because of that, sometimes a lot of people who look at it that way, it can be very, very contradicting. I use the word contradicting because if you look at what value you're bringing and what your company is making to make that as a decision to
Yeah.
becoming an entrepreneur, the chances a lot of people are not going to win like you. I'll probably
True.
put a number to it. 99.9% of people who go through and becoming entrepreneurs through because of that, they end up failing because
Absolutely.
they don't understand the sleepless night that comes from being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, it's not the reason why you have to become an entrepreneur because, look, I know so many people who are in a 9 to 5 that are happy. Matter of fact, I have one of my best friends
Yeah.
who is in a 9 to 5, and she is very content. And I think the fact that that's the life she chose and that's the life she's happy with,
Yeah.
amazing.
And just to add to that as well, a lot of young stars who are probably going to listen to this podcast and probably going to engage with this podcast, or those who are not going to engage with this podcast, a lot of people are actually, jumping into entrepreneurship, but not understanding they're not entrepreneurs, they're just side hustling. So because there's different layers to this. A lot of people think, I'm an entrepreneur, but actually you're not an entrepreneur. You're having a side hustle. I don't
Yeah.
want to work for anybody. I work for myself, self-employed. Yes, you're not still an entrepreneur. You're having a side business. When you become an entrepreneur is when you start to have a company. What is a company? A company is a group of people, coming together to produce one common goal that benefits all. Whether you've been a partner or whether you've been an employee, but
True.
it's one common goal. So, and this is one of the things a lot of people who are on YouTube, a lot of people who are listening to podcasts needs to understand. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone because being an entrepreneur is hard, is tough.
It is. You can be on a night out and your phone is still ringing. It doesn't happen when you are in a 9 to 5, right? But then, obviously, it's different views
Absolutely.
on how you want to live your life. I'm happy being able to go on a holiday whenever I want to without really having to report to someone. But obviously, I am really happy with the fact that I have 15 employees in my organization who are also comfortable. Like they like to do what they're doing. In the future, if they want to have their own ventures, by all means, no hard feelings. But then if they're comfortable now where they are, beautiful. Well, I think it's an interesting conversation.
Quite a very interesting conversation. But me, over the last 22 years, especially over the last 3 years, I've come to actually realize when I speak to newbie entrepreneurs, it's very clear that actually they've jumped into entrepreneurship, not understanding entrepreneurship, and actually they are side hustling rather than, actually being an entrepreneur. Obviously, there are different degrees and different levels to what this topic is. There's an entrepreneur side hustle, there's entrepreneur business owner, there's entrepreneur empire builder, and there's an entrepreneur who is the investor as well. So if you want to look at it, in my own understanding, these words are mine. The way I've broken it down, it's just my own perspective. That's what I mean by mine. If you want to look at it, a lot of people look at entrepreneurship from the fact that, hey, Dr. Daniel Moses or Hajar, all right, oh, he's doing well on, doing this, doing that, have 15 employees, or I'm going to be them. But then again, they're missing the gap. The gap is what did it took Daniel to go from here to there? But most times they want to jump. What did it take Hajar to build in a business that now have 15 people? But most times people want to jump. Like I said, I've been on this journey. I can only call myself a successful entrepreneur in the last 3 years. Obviously, I had my own different setbacks and I had to be tested in order to make that transition. Most people don't want to pass the test. And most people don't want the transition. And most people just want the result. So when they get in, they get out. So they get in and they quit.
And not the journey.
Not the journey.
Interesting. So you chose family over money and money over love.
Very contradicting, isn't it?
No, it's just that it's a triangle, right?
It's a triangle, right? Yeah.
It's a triangle. So let's talk about that.
Let's face that. I love my wife a lot. Being dedicated, loyal, and same back as well. And probably in 17 years I've been married to her. I'm very been, this is in life in general. If I did not win at every single point in time to generate a level of success that we have, there's a major chance that she could be like, okay, now I think I've had enough. And that's the enough here is nothing is working. But when something is working, with all our love, we automatically help to come and support it. And what is that support? The support is that we're actually creating something that gives us money. And people, this is quite a deep explanation.
Mm.
Now, when you jump out of your bed in the morning at 5 a.m. to get ready for work, and then be at work for 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, what are you chasing? Money.
Not love.
Not love. You're not going to work because you love your job. A very high percentage of people don't love their job, but they love the money. And this is the reason why I said in England, I just think somehow, if you look into colonialism, if I pronounce that right, somehow the way English is being created, somehow we love to use the word correctly, use English correctly. But if you look at history, and I don't want to be part of that sort of history that is there's a lot of deception in there. But money doesn't make you happy. But when you wake up in the morning, what pays your bill and why did you go to work? It's money.
It's money. That's a bullshit. Yeah.
It's money.
It is.
Money is a very huge substantial part of our coexistence on this planet.
Matter of fact, actually, it's the lack of it is what makes a lot of people unhappy, a lot of people depressed, a lot of people go through divorce, a lot of people,
I've been rich before and I've been broke before. I've made money and I've lost money. Every time I have so much headaches is when I don't have money. Every time I have palpitations is when I don't have money.
Totally agree,
So let's just call a spade a spade. Let's be very open and honest. People say, "Oh, no, it's the money."
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, I mentor and coach a lot of people, and we were having a very interesting conversation just now, right? Before we started the podcast. And I said, at the end of the day, most coaches don't like to talk so much because when they end up speaking too much, they're actually giving what could be monetized, correct? So sometimes you see you withdraw. You never answer direct questions because if you give the answer straight away, you're actually giving your money, you're leaving money on the table. When you go to a solicitor for a 30 minutes consultation and they charge you about £60 an hour, what are you paying them for? The years they went to school for. What does it end at? Money. So let's just be very transparent about this conversation. It's money before love.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think we're on the same page with that one. Yeah. You said going back to 6 years old, knowing everything you know right now. Ooh. Over £10 million.
I think, I'm 43 years old. I really feel like if I got myself into having a mentor at a very young age and guided correctly, no disrespect to the people who raised me, going back all the way to 6 years old, if I saw the opportunities, if other people saw the opportunities of who I am at the age of 6 all the way to my age now, I think my life could have been conditioned correctly. And this is one of the things. I have a 15-year-old son, and every single day when me and him have a conversation and he disagrees with me, and I always make sure I tell him this: I've spoken to you as a father. I was once like you. If you choose not to understand these principles of business and you don't follow it, when you get to the point of reasoning, you will going to remember me that I said this to you. And every single time I said that to him, and that's why my son closes from school, he gets on the bus, he's at home, straight home. He goes to football, he finishes football, straight at home. A lot of kids grow in this country, all right, and somehow, especially black kids, all right, and having these arguments all the time where they've adapted certain culture and not actually listening to being guided. It takes a whole village to raise a child. So if I knew what I know now from a very, knowing it, developing myself. I remember going to school, my mother would say, read books. I'm writing books now. Why did I not read books when I was in school? Really well. I read books, but I did not read it to interpreting that knowledge to myself. I had a very, very interesting conversation with my child yesterday. He said, "Oh, Dad, algebra, I'm not going to use that when I'm at work. When I get older." I said, "Okay, that's fine. But it's part of the necessity that you need to say, oh, I watched that video and this video on YouTube. It says school." I said, "Listen, it's still part of the process. Yes, we get it. Formal education doesn't make you a fortune. Self-education will make, formal education makes you a living, and self-education will make you a fortune. I get it. But it's a matter of you compressing and
Yeah.
deconstructing information that makes you the most creative person in the room. So if I understand creativity that comes with what I know today,
Yeah.
I'll be maybe 5 times more successful than I am today. So for those of us who are raising kids, I raise my kids to be creative every single day. I raise my kids. My son is so creative. My son could sell you anything and you're going to buy it. That's how creative as he is. My son can make you do something for him. That's, for me, is creativity. And I wish
And
I
skills,
knew that
yeah.
creativity skill from a very young child and how to utilize it correctly.
Beautiful. So what's the business that you're doing right now?
So right now, I'm actively buying houses, actively raising money. One of our biggest goals for the year 2020, for the next 12 months, is to raise £3 million. So actively at the moment, I'm trying to raise much more money as much as I can. Again, if I knew the importance of leverage, I would have started leveraging even quite earlier. So I'm actually, leveraging as much as possible to duplicate more houses that will appreciate over time. So that's what I'm very active doing, number one. What else am I actively doing, number two? What else I'm actively doing, number two, is working every single day, developing and creating my personal brand. And thirdly, is writing more books.
And I think you forgot one.
Yes. Remind me what that one is.
You're helping entrepreneurs to start their journeys, aren't you?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I forget because I just think that helps. I just think people know about it. And I'm very wrong on that. Yes, I help entrepreneurs, build business empires in property.
Yeah.
I help business entrepreneurs, transition from entrepreneurs and also becoming property investors. So, and that's what I do. I just help people create wealth. Yep.
Create wealth. Oh, love that. I help people create wealth.
Yeah, I help people create wealth.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah.
So what would you say to anyone who is literally lost, wanted to start, not knowing how to do it, where to do it, literally whether they have money or don't have money, whether they are young student at crossroads or already of a certain age? So what would you say?
Looking back 6 years I've been in property, and I've been a very successful one indeed, is actually came up with something called the wealth creation formula, which starts from you getting knowledge, all right, and setting yourself a 5-year plan. So against all the odds that a lot of other people who are coaches and mentors teaches on social media every now and then. So I said to people, when you get into property, don't think about getting rich in 3-6 months, but build a plan, set a 5-year plan. All right. So first, you want the knowledge. You want to have the knowledge. Secondly, you want to set yourself a 5-year plan. Forget about the instant gratification. Forget about all the lovely photographs and, Lamborghinis or Phantoms or, expensive cars you see people post on social media. But just within the wealth creation formula, get knowledge, set yourself a plan, and have the most important skill in this business, which is raising finance.
Beautiful. Now, we're coming to the end of this podcast. It's an amazing conversation we've been having. It looks like just went just like that. But I want to talk about the book very, very quickly because I know it's coming in next few weeks.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
it's available for pre-ordering now.
Is it?
Yes, people can go and pre-order the book.
Beautiful. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a link in the description box so that everyone who listens to this podcast can grab a copy, and make sure you grab a copy because I read the introduction and it's, oh my God, I can't wait for the book to come out. I'm going to be among the first people who's going to get the book. 100%. I loved your first book, so I'm sure I'm going to love the second one.
And this is so beautiful as well because it's not about property, it's about life.
Yeah.
Challenges and trials and, how you turn pain
It's what we've been talking about right now,
it's
isn't
just
it?
turning pain, turning your. A lot of people have gone through so much pain, but they're stuck, not knowing how to turn that pain into success.
Can I ask you a question, Daniel? Why do we wait? And listen, I'm also, again, guilty of this. Why do we wait until something has happened in our life, gives us pain, for us to actually want to change? Why don't we just do it from the beginning?
It depends on how you're raised. So, God willing, my children might not have to go through the level of pain that I've been through in order for them to become successful. So, my son automatically understands success right now. He understands longevity. He understands the ability to destroy, instant gratification mentality and just go for gold. So he's got a father who migrated, first generation immigrant who's migrated from Nigeria to England and has built a name for himself today in England. So the other day, my wife went out to a restaurant and somebody saw my wife and said, "Oh, you're Daniel Moses' wife," and the person paid for the meal. All right, paid for the meal and gave my daughter, a gift. Because of the name I have. So he's not going to have to go through some pain level to attaining some great level of success, because he's been, a lot of things he's heard over and over and over and over again that somehow organically and naturally has been embedded in him. For me, I had to go through pain of coming to this country.
Yeah.
I have to go through pain of settling in this country. I've been through so much pains and, ups and downs that, people who are of my generation will absolutely just quit and just, stick to the odd jobs and all
Yeah.
these different things. And again, that's okay or good, or, for them. All right. But for me, I choose not to accept that as okay or good for
Yeah.
me. So some of us go through that pain before we take action. Some of us don't need to. Some of us might not even ever have to go through pain to going through that. But the reason why I wrote the book, The Test, means that if you go through the test, if you go through your pain and you're tested, that's okay. But don't let that be the reason why you quit. Let that be the reason why you even want to be successful. Let your divorce be the reason why you want to be successful. Let your, not having immigration status be the reason why you need to be recognized by the king. Let your reason why, you don't have money, you created much more money that your immediate environment have an impact. So let your struggles be the reason why you want to become friends with those who are wealthy. I recently, one of our New Year resolution, or rather one of our New Year goals, was to just connect with high net worth people. And we've been doing that so crazily this year. So the goal this year is simple: get connected with wealthy people. So let that be the reason why you want to be able to win. Don't let a lot of people quit because of that. Oh, I can never be friends with Hajar, so I will never make effort to reach out to Hajar.
I will have to say thank you very much, Daniel, for being here. I'm sure everyone here is getting a lot of value from what we're saying. We'll definitely bring you back, because this is so interesting. You said yes, so
100%,
you agreed already.
100%.
I'm sure you liked this episode. Give us a like, a subscribe, and if you want to reach out to Daniel, he's Dr. Daniel Moses on all social platforms. Thank you for watching this episode, and until the next episode, do not forget to live your best life. That was Hajar Beyaz in the Diaries of Success.